The annual conference of the Irish Wind Energy Association is being held in Dublin today, and its theme is Irish Wind Power, Our Competitive Advantage. A range of industry heavyweights will be making presentations on what they see as the opportunities for investment and jobs. The Minister for Energy and Communications, Pat Rabbitte, will also attend, but he may not get the welcome he expects because a group of campaigners will be there to greet him. Ray Conroy is spokesperson for the Laois Wind Energy Awareness group. Ray, thanks for taking our call this morning.
Thanks, Will.
What is your message to Minister Pat Rabbitte?
Well, our basic message to Minister Rabbitte would be to introduce some legislation and protection for the normal people who are going to be, if you like, blighted by this proposed project, where they want to introduce 2,500 giant turbines across the 5 counties of the Midlands.
Legislation governing heights, governing minimum distances, governing what exactly?
Well, there are only guidelines in Ireland, and they work from legislation, or not legislation, but it's guidelines that were pertinent to 54-metre turbines 17 years ago, and they're talking 500 metres setbacks from people's dwellings. Now, if they're working those guidelines, the proposed turbines for this project are from 185 metres tall and extendable, believe it or not, to 250 metres tall. And in Laois, the actual guidelines in the county development plan states a setback distance of 250 metres. I mean, there is no legislation, there's no protection, and it's a case that private companies are in, basically picking up a land bank. And anybody with clearance of 500 metres between houses is in danger of having one of these turbines thrust upon them.
And your group would favour minimum distances of what exactly? Or are you against the development of wind turbines full stop?
No. Obviously there's a place for wind turbines. I mean, it's been stated like in counties like Laois and Offaly, especially, there's a lot of cutaway bog, which is basic land that's, has no intrinsic value as such. It's used land, but there's no dwelling houses within the vicinity of them.
Right, so we finessed your position in that you feel there are some appropriate places within the Midlands for these facilities, but the question then becomes, how far away from the nearest dwelling do you feel is appropriate?
Well, Willie Penrose in Westmeath and Cutler have tried to introduce legislation where they're calling on setback distances dependent on the height of the turbines. Now, it makes sense that they be staggered. If a turbine is 50 metres tall, 500 metres is an appropriate distance.
Right, so you'd have a graduated scale.
Sorry?
You'd have a graduated scale. The taller the turbine, the further the set-off.
I mean, I think Mr Penrose's bill is calling for a minimum setback of 2 kilometres from a turbine over 150 metres tall. Now, in the UK, there's a reading before the Lords at the moment. It's a private member's bill, where they're actually advocating a 3-kilometre setback from turbines over 150 metres in height. And I mean, considering that these turbines, this development is solely for the benefit of the UK energy grid, I mean, we'd expect, if it's is being funded by the UK, we'd expect that we would be afforded the same protection as they're trying to introduce in the UK to protect their citizens, rather than going on 250 to 500 metre guidelines.
Well, one of the reasons these wind farms are not being developed in the UK is because politically it would be very difficult for authorities in the UK to grant permission for these turbines, because there's a huge public opposition there, and hence the prospective developers have looked to Ireland, where at the moment, you're correct in saying there's no legislation, but then again, these plans are just plans at the moment. Is it a little premature to be upset about an absence of legislation when these plans haven't advanced further yet?
Well, I mean, there may be only plans in pie in the sky at the moment, but the fact that these energy companies are actually signing legal documents with landowners, I mean, they're creating a land bank in order that they can put through a proposal to introduce these. I mean, how can they do that with no legislation? How can our government allow them to put even a planning proposal together based on what they perceive as just the guidelines of 500 metres or less? you know.
But if local landowners are already doing deals with these companies, it suggests that to some extent there's local support, perhaps from people who have vested interests. But how representative would groups such as yours be who have concerns?
Well, I mean, we're from a very small community, from the areas Fisherstown, Ballybrittis, Vickerstown area, and when we got wind that there was agents trying to sign up landowners, we just called a small meeting, and 300 people from a population of 1,700 approximately turned up just because there was no information. So of that crowd, I would say that the majority of people are against these purely on the fact that there's no consultation, there's no protection afforded to us by legislation, there's no inclusion in the proposal to develop these farms. Now, we asked for representatives from Element Power to attend our meeting, and the response we got from them was, when it's time to engage with the community, they will call the shots.
Right, Element Power, for those who are unfamiliar with it, is one of the companies proposing quite a sizable scheme here in the Midlands, one of a number of firms. There's a new poll today released by the Irish Wind Energy Association. Now, it was conducted by Ipsos MRBI, which is a reputable company which performs studies for the Irish Times, for RTE, for all of these opinion polls and so on. It shows 8 out of 10 Irish people are in favour and approve of the use of wind farms. Are you fighting an uphill PR battle, do you feel?
Well, I think we're on our starting block is, we're possibly 2 to 3 years behind the IWA, who are lobbying for this project, possibly in the background over the course of years. We're all used to pictures of wind turbines spinning nicely, serenely on top of a hill. Those are not representative of what's proposed in this Greenwire or Energy Bridge project. Those are babies. And if you look at any images you see, you will never see a dwelling house within a picture of a wind turbine range. The amount of turbines they're proposing for this, it'd be impossible not to see dwelling houses if you're talking about 2,500 over 5 counties.
Well, indeed, your organisation, and we posted it on our Facebook page some weeks ago, made a scale drawing of one of these turbines beside a church, beside a house, beside a number of regularly identifiable dwellings.
Yes.
And they are big. There's no denying that. So you will meet, well, or at least when the minister arrives, you will be there to make your point to him. How many people have...
The minister has been and gone.
Oh, he has been and gone. And did you get to exchange any words with him?
No. The minister just arrived, made no comment, made no intention to engage with us. You've got to take that we are outside the Four Seasons. It's lashing snow. The minister was inside. We're not allowed access to this. The price of entrance... Granted,
but I presume he came through the front door to pass you, did he, Ray?
Sorry?
Did he not pass you at the front door?
Oh, he did.
And did he make any effort to acknowledge the protesters who were present?
No.
And how many of you are there?
There's approximately 25, because it was only called on this very short notice. But we decided you don't get the opportunity. This is an annual conference held by these IWA, who are the lobby group for all concerned companies. So it's a big business concern. We don't expect to change anybody's mind here, but at least we thought our public representative might engage with the people. But no, that's not to be the case.
Are you abandoning the protests for today, or will you remain there while the conference is underway?
We'd probably finish today because we've all got lives to live, if you understand. There's work to be done. I think we've made a point. We're not going to change any industry. Their motivation is pure profit. Our views, our fears don't come into the equation when you're dealing with a lobby group and you're dealing with, Siemens, the people who manufacture turbines, people who erect them. I don't think we can change their minds. This is a profit-driven process, which is their business, and
although companies such as Bord Namona, and I'm sure you will disagree with this point of view, but I just want to represent it nonetheless, companies such as Bord Namona say they are doing this to create a sustainable economy in the Midlands, one that leverages the inherent natural strengths of the region. That's their motivation. you clearly believe profit is over and above what's really driving this.
I actually think this project is pure profit driven. I mean, I think it's a grab for subsidies, and I mean, Bordemona have a different agenda insofar as what they're producing is for the national grid. They're using what they own is a nationally owned land in Bordemona cutaway bogs. I mean, that's a different story.
Right, so you make a distinction between Bordemona and, say, Element Power or one of these other firms that are looking to export the energy.
Element Power, as far as I can find out, is it's a private equity firm whose pure motivation is to make a return on investment. And I mean, this project will not be built with Irish money. This project is dependent on UK subsidies or European subsidies. Once they're up, they're up. And we've got to live with them for the next, 2 generations you're talking. There's no going back if it goes ahead.
All right, Ray Conroy, spokesperson for Laois Wind Energy Awareness Group. Thank you very much for taking our call on Midlands 103 this morning. We did, for the sake of balance, attempt to secure a spokesperson from the Irish Wind Energy Association, but we were unsuccessful in those efforts this morning. But we did attempt as best we could to represent the other side.